Hello and welcome to Used to Be's Do Count with me, Dean James. You're listening to Season 2, Episode 6, I Used to Be a Soldier at War. In this episode, I speak with Craig Maddern about joining the British Army at the tender age of 17.
You know, getting up at 6:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, making sure your bed is not made, but perfectly made. Everything in your locker is perfect, no creases, or you'll find out how many creases you've got in your body after.
Craig recalls some of his experiences spending time in conflict zones such as Afghanistan.
The heat was just like another world, and that was it. It started to get to like, okay, things are getting real and more real, and I had all my kit on me. And
Craig's army career unfortunately ended early, having suffered a terrible health condition, and he talks to me about how difficult it was to transition back into civilian life.
I was drinking what I wanted, when I wanted, I was running, I was doing everything. My body was, in my eyes, indestructible. The day I fell ill, when I remember passing out, dropping out, that was it. That was the low point. I was angry at everything, because it was just like everything I worked for, it was just like, nope, stop. It was like jumping into the ice cold water. It was like, oh, hold on, this is Civ Street, it sucks.
However, with the help of his wife and family, Craig is now a best-selling author and a life coach, helping dads deal with high stress.
I love doing it, mate. I absolutely do. I really, really love speaking to clients. Basically, my whole idea is mindset, resilience, and then life building. So the whole first bit is just changing your mind on how you see stress. People see stress as like a normality, and it's really just getting you to understand like how to stop that stress cycle, how to sleep better, how to wake up better.
A small disclaimer, this episode does contain swear words, and we do explore themes around stress, anger, depression, and themes around suicide. Are you ready to listen to Craig's inspiring story? Well, without further ado, let's dive right in. So, Craig Maddern.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing on the hottest day of the year so far in the UK?
I have to admit, I don't like the heat, so it's a bit of a struggle for me, but I've got a lot of fans blowing on me right now. You may not hear them, but I've got a lot blowing on me.
We can't hear, but we always need in our lives a lot of fans,
yeah,
so I'm happy to hear it.
True, yeah.
We're not going to do that real British thing where we just talk about the weather all the time, but it is ridiculously hot today. It is the Wimbledon men's semi-finals. So I'm like really excited about the tennis. It's really hot, but I'm even more excited about talking to you today. Thank you so much for joining Used to Be's Do Count. For anyone who doesn't know you, Craig, let us know who you are, where are you in the world, and what are you up to right now?
Yeah, so my name's Craig Maddern from South Wales in the United Kingdom. As you said, it's very hot. At the moment, I'm a stress coach for dads, hardworking dads out there, and that is my life in a nutshell, basically. Absolutely love what I do, and apart from the weather at the moment, everything's great.
Yeah, you're not enjoying this ridiculous heat. We're just not equipped with it. But you're a life coach. You're a life coach specifically for dads and dads who are under a lot of stress and trying to help that, which is so interesting and so needed. And I really want to talk about everything that you're doing and how that came to be, really. However, as you know, this podcast is called Used to Be's Do Count, and it means that we're going to focus a lot of the conversation on your used to be. So tell everyone what your used to be was.
So I used to be a soldier at war.
Yeah, okay. So pretty extreme. Not only a soldier in the army, but actually stationed in a war zone for some part of your army career. So I want to talk about all of that, and then also how that sort of affected your mental health and what that did for you and how that led you into the wonderful work that you're doing now, helping dads deal with a lot of stress and pressure in life. I think there's a full circle moment to talk about. In order for me to really understand that, though, let me know, what age did you join the army?
So I joined on my 17th birthday, believe it or not. It was on the 7th September 2008, and it was literally on my 17th birthday. So I was travelling on my birthday all the way to North England, Harrogate, just after school.
Wow, 17. Okay. So you were 17. You'd left school at 16. Just take me a little bit before that then. How were you at school? Did you come out with GCSEs? And what made your decision to join the army?
Yeah. I love how you put them two together then, because it's perfectly aligned. No, I didn't get many GCSEs. I was a bit quite promiscuous. I was quite crazy in my school days. I think there was a part of me that was quite well behaved around certain people, like my grandmother and my grandfather, but I hid the sort of like cheekiness about me around my family, I guess. And then when I came to school, I just think I wasn't interested, I wasn't invested, I didn't enjoy education. And I think even my dad felt that. He was probably looking at me going like, you're not going to do much, probably that typical father worry. And then it got to a point where I was like looking at all these where can I go moments, and I don't know what it was, but I wanted to do something with my life. You know, I wasn't just stuck in Wales, South Wales, whatever. I wanted to go out and venture, and the army just sort of struck me as something to go. My dad was in the RAF, so I wanted to one up him. And yeah, I ended up joining the army, sort of going through all the selection process, did really well in them as well. The only setback was a heart murmur, which is just, you got to go and check your heart quickly. And then, yeah, absolutely nailed it. And like I said, 7th September 2008, I started my journey into the crazy world of the army.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so young as well. And a lot of youngsters do go into the army. And when they do go at the age that you went, I always hear a similar story that school didn't serve that person. You know, mainstream education doesn't serve everyone, does it? I just want to ask if you felt that you had more sort of trade skills, vocational skills, hands-on stuff, physical stuff in school, in mainstream education, would it have been different for you? Was it the education as a whole, or was it the institution of the education? Like, what didn't sit right with you?
I think it was the latter. I don't think if my education was, unless it was like an extreme education, you know, where I'm like talking really high diplomas and degrees, that maybe it would have been a different path. But I think it was the institution mainly. I just don't like, I admittedly didn't like Civilian Street before I joined. I just didn't feel like it was where I wanted to be in and out of school. So yeah, I found that it wasn't even just the stories about the army. It wasn't just typically watching films or hearing rumors about the army. It was just something that it was calling out to me. And then, yeah, joined it. It was a different world. And to be honest, I don't look back at it and regret it. I look back at it and think that was the right path to go. You know, if you want to look at it as like, should I have gone left? Should I have gone right? Or should I have gone this way, that way? It was the right thing to do for me at the time. And yeah, I said, I don't think much things would have changed from an educational standpoint. I just wasn't interested in school. I wasn't interested in what was going on.
But it was the perfect outlet at that time, like you said. I mean, there was really nothing else of interest in the world. And you said already that you didn't really like the idea of Civilian Street, which is, you know, the everyday Tom, Dick and Harry going to work, working 9 to 5, you know, all of that kind of stuff that that as a society, we sort of are taught this is what you do. You go to school, you go to college, potentially university, and then you go to work a 9 to 5 and get married and have kids and blah, blah, blah. You know, that wasn't really for you at that point. How long were you in the army, Craig?
So it was 15 years. So my last day technically was November 2023. So just under 15 years coming up to, and it was a medical discharge, unfortunately. Well, it wasn't by choice. So yeah, it was a long time, and I've learned so many lessons, ups and downs. Like I said, I never look back and regret the day I joined up. There were some very proud moments. There was some very dark moments, of course, where I just felt like, why did I do it in the beginning? But actually now reflecting back, it's a bit different. But yeah, it was a long time in the army, 15 years, I guess. Well, some people will be looking at me saying, that's long, I've done 25. But yeah, for me, it was a long time in my life. So
15 years is a long time of your life. But what we've got to understand as well is that this is a huge milestone coming of age as part of that. 17, if you look at 17, 18, 19-year-old young lad, these are significant development times. Then if you look at mid-20s to going into your late 20s, you know, you're pushing towards that. This is a huge transition development time in a person's life.
100%, yeah.
In a man's life, let's talk about you're a man, you're a dad. In a man's life, these things, you know, because men mature differently to women. So let's talk about the fact that we're male. These are significant developmental maturing times. And you did all of that in the army. For someone like me, who is a complete sort of quite ignorant to it, not going on tour or being in a war zone, and we are going to talk about that, what was your general day-to-day like? I mean, give me a kind of picture of what it was like.
It was very different. So if I was to talk about year 1 to year 3, very different. But I liked something you said then about the 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old sort of growing up and having that different mentality. It was a different time where, let's say the way you were treated was a little bit more rough, boisterous, maybe, in a way of like, you know, you had to sort of man up, and back then the phrase was sort of used quite a lot. So it did sort of really build that shell of resilience.
Really? Again, for me, who just doesn't have an insight in this, that phrase "man up" and that kind of rough around the edges, training, if you like, conditioning almost, what's expected of you as a young lad. It was tough, right?
Yeah, it really was. Because don't forget, like, I was still a kid. Like, at the time, you don't think you're a kid, right? When you're 16, 17, you're an adult. You could do what you want. You're as good as an adult. Elders mean nothing. But I was a kid. And the first 6 weeks that you do is called, back then it was called civilian to soldier. It was like a transition of how to turn you into a soldier, basically. And it is a massive step. And like, I look at my kids growing up now, and back then it was a completely different thing, getting up at 6:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, making sure your bed is not made, but perfectly made. Everything in your locker is perfect, no creases, or you'll find out how many creases you've got in your body after. You go into the shower room, you've got, typical block jobs, almost like, being a full grown adult where you have to look after the things around you, clean up and all that sort of stuff, make sure you're changed, ready to go. And this was expected of you. And in fact, actually, if you weren't doing that, there was a massive part of disciplinary sort of side to it. It's like, you haven't ironed, you haven't done this, you haven't looked at, you're not fit enough, you're putting on weight, whatever it may be. It was like really direct, like, you are not good enough. And that was like a lot of pressure to put on a young lad.
And what was the disciplinary and the punishments? What did they look like?
Very different to now anyway. Tickle them with a feather now. So back then, it was really, really different back then, to be honest. A lot of my, the people that looked after me, they'd been out to Iraq and Afghanistan at the time. So they were really tough, strong. I looked up to them massively. They were like role models. And it was literally like, sometimes it was typical press ups, like, do these press ups. It was going for a run. It was like, right, you're not going to bed at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock tonight or whatever. You're going to go out for a march or a run or something like that. That's, could be 3 miles. It could be anything that you can think of that really instills discipline. And at the time, you're sort of going, oh, but and I was generally petrified of these men as well. This wasn't like I'm going in there going like, oh, I don't want to really piss him off. Where I've been told now is a bit more, they just respect the person involved. But I was petrified, and it helped me because I understood, like, this guy's in charge. There's a reason he's in charge, and it instilled that discipline that I feel like got me through a lot of the rest of the army, because I was like, I can deal with a lot of things coming my way. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, fear is used as a tactic a lot of the time, and look, whether you believe it's right or wrong, it's effective, right? If you fear someone, you're gonna do it. And like you said, which is really important, these guys have been in war zones in Afghanistan, in Iraq at the time, and they're training you. And it was a different time. It was a timing in the world where our army, our forces, were going to war in the Middle East. We're talking 2001, 2002, 2003. Is that right?
Afghan started around about that time, yeah. So I was 2008.
And you were 2008. So if it started around that time and you were in the army around that time, then they're looking at you to be the next people to be in that environment.
Yeah, massively. That's what made a massive difference as well. In fact, actually, towards the end of my career, that's something that we talked about a lot when we were bringing up, like, the younger soldiers. I started doing training and instructing, and we were always saying that it's like, we're getting them ready for potential wars. That's what the army's doing, is training for potential combative events or activities in the world. But for us, it was like, there's your goal, you're going here. Like, when we was in, you're training, not so much in the first part of the training, which was my first year. It was like, we're just training you how to be a soldier, really. But then as it started to get closer and closer, it was like, we are focusing you towards going to Afghanistan. So it was exciting.
Yeah. And you were aware of that?
Oh, yeah.
How did you feel about knowing that was almost like a goal? Like, this is what we're working towards. We're working towards to be stationed in Afghanistan, which is currently a war zone that the US and the UK are in.
Yeah, I was really excited, mate.
Really?
At that age, yeah. I saw, like, it was also like a bit of a stigma as well, because, like, when you every step you got closer to regiments, like, when you've done all your training, you get out to your main base that you're based at. So I was at Watersham after my first 3 years of training, or 2.5 years training, should I say. So when you hear other people coming back with these stories, you're hearing people coming back, and, like, they look not down on you in any way, because you are looked after, but they look at you like it's almost like looking at an older brother, they've done school, for instance, you're looking at them, they've got their own car and their own job. You're looking at these guys and these blokes that have gone out and they've done it and they've come back, and you really do respect them. And I think that was such a beautiful thing back then. I mean, that's probably washing away a little bit now, but it was a lot of respect to them.
Yeah, and I think that is part of what situation that you were in, away from your family, a young lad away from your family, learning all these skills. Like you said, it was hard knocks. It wasn't easy. They weren't soft on you. And there was an end goal in their training program to put you in a war zone in Afghanistan. Your peers around you that are going through that become, I'm guessing, your brotherhood, and your people who are training you, your role models that you're looking up to become, I guess, almost like older brothers or uncles or parents in some way, even the parent sort of roles. Is that true to say? Can you paint a picture of the kind of relationships that are formed there?
Yeah, there's loads of different relationships. So of course, you've got lots of different like squadrons or companies, or all these different like sectors of where you're working. But like sometimes, you almost look at these dads as like these men as fathers. A lot of them as well, because they are literally like, a lot of them are a lot older. They've been to not just Afghanistan, they've been probably to Iraq, the Northern Ireland sort of situation when I was in as well. So they would have been around about that time. And that they've gone and done a lot. And even though sometimes you get angry at them or you get frustrated because they've got like this old fashioned head on, paired to you that may be a little bit more modern in ways you do things, which that didn't matter. You just gel, you listen to them, and you want to do what's best for them. You want to like sort of as a father, you want to make them proud as well, right? So the relationships really do differ. And I think like my best mate, Tom, I'll say his second name as well because he's all over the internet anyway. He's a coach like me, Tom Cockerell. He was also in the military with me, and we went through it all together. So he, even to this day, is still like, well, he's my brother pretty much. Like we speak every night, being best man at each other's weddings. So like, this is a guy that's from Plymouth. I'm from South Wales. He's ex-farm, like farm boy sort of thing. I'm an ex-townie, like all these differences. And again, even some of your brothers that are from cross seas, born from cross seas, from Africa, that are from Commonwealth. So you're such an array. And then coming out, that's what I felt like coming back out. You miss that sort of, sometimes you can't even explain it.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about cutting out as well, because that transition must have been massive.
Yeah.
Before we get there, I just wanted to ask about you, I guess, popping back home. So during the time that you were not on tour, how often were you coming back home and seeing your family and coming back to South Wales?
Not that much, to be honest.
No?
Not that much. Not as much as you probably think. Like a lot of the guys, especially when we were just in normal regiment, you're day to day, like you're not in training anymore. I don't, like some of them went back every weekend. I think I must have gone back every few months, maybe. Obviously Christmas, I'd go back. I was away. I was enjoying my life. And for me, it was going out drinking with the lads on the weekend. And, like I said, being that promiscuous me that was trying to sleep with women and do all the stuff that we were doing, sometimes sexual, sometimes not. But it was almost like I didn't want to go home, and not in a disrespectful way of course I missed home, but there was this like, I wanted to stay out with the guys and drink and have fun with them. And it was, yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. And there's a bubble of reality that you're in that actually, and the reason why I asked, coming home to South Wales must have been so different and probably quite difficult to deal with, because you were, like you said, excited actually about the potential of going to Afghanistan. You're forming this brotherhood. You've got your brothers around you. You're all going through this experience together. And then you go back to South Wales where what's going on? Like, you can't relate to that life. Do you know what I mean? It must have been so weird.
Yeah.
And probably heightened when you actually came out of the army and back to civilian life full time, which is a thing that we're definitely going to talk about. I definitely want to hear about that. But before we get there, tell me about Afghanistan, man, as much as you can and as much as you want to. The first time that you went out there, how did that happen? How were you feeling? Where did you go? How did they sort of transition you into that environment? How did that look?
Yeah, it was like I said, so excitement it was like a notch on the belt, right? It was like this bucket list thing. And so for a while you're training for it and you're almost getting impatient, actually. The dates that are coming up, and I got told in 2011, like the date we're going, which was around about early May of 2012. So you start the training. Libya then kicked off. So some of our squadron was in and out of the ships for Libya with, I can't even remember his name now. I was going to say Gandalf. What was his name? Gaddafi.
Gaddafi, Colonel Gaddafi, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it. Yeah, yeah. It's because we used to call him probably Gandalf as a mess around. But anywho, so that was all going on. So it was like a really quick switch round. But then all this training started to happen. We're out in parts of England, doing all these training scenarios of what it would be like, and it was nothing close, to be honest, because it's all you're not feeling it. You're in this imaginary world where you just play pretend, and yeah.
I mean, like a real computer game, right? In this training zone where you're going through these motions, but emotionally, mentally, you can't place yourself there because you've never experienced it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like a film or a game or something.
Yeah. And you do get like it's like these preemptive like warnings. Oh, you can't, you got to be like this, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to be clever, you got to be smart. And then we started to like get some guys that have been out there and talk to us about some situations, talk about the culture of Afghanistan as well, because that's quite clearly important. We want to be peacekeeping. We don't want to be going out there like some of the Americans do sometimes, admittedly, and cause issues than when we're trying to peacekeep. So that was like really, I don't know. It was one of those things like it was boring. It was like all I wanted to do was just get to the main thing and the main event. And I remember the day, the weekend, should I say, we were all having our last drinks before we were going. Again, didn't go home. I can't even remember if we were allowed to or not, and got hammered. I was actually worried I was going to be hungover for the day. You have to pack up all your room in the block where you live in the army, and before you know it, we're traveling, and that even to this day, it just seems a bit surreal that you're going off. Like when you're going on holiday and it's exciting, it's stuff. There was some sort of element to that, and I remember we travelled from Bryce Norton, and then we went to a place called in Dubai. I can't remember what it was called. And the heat when I come off that, because we talked about the heat today, accidentally went back to the UK weather sort of thing. But the heat was just like another world, and it was it. It started to get to like, okay, things are getting real and more real, and I had all my kit on me, and I was like, okay. Then we got onto this like can't remember the names of them. See, someone will probably, hopefully, one day tell me what it is. It's a big, massive RAF plane, and it's like C-330 or something. It's some crazy. Like I was never good with that little analogies and words and letters, but go on this big plane. You're sort of sat there. It's not like like a commercial airline. You're all sort of sat there on this plane. Felt like for ages, and then you're there. And we got there at night time, so it was almost like, again, it's imagining turning up on holiday. Holiday's probably not the right word, by the way, but turning up on holiday at night, you've just checked in, you're a bit tired, but you're also like really excited about being there. And yeah, then the first 5 days you're there, you're doing training again. So you're out there. It's you just can't stop looking around. You're just in this amazement. I was 20 at the time. And you're just in amazement, looking around, just looking at, it's not just because you're in a different countries either. It's almost like because you are in these places with all these big, massive, like walls put up and guards put up, and, you can hear the helicopters flying over the head and just everything. It was like, oh my God, but it was like a really slow start.
Yeah. It's basically a base camp setup. So it's like this man-made sort of army setup.
Yeah.
In a surrounding of, I mean, what was the vista like? Like mountains, desert. It's like
flat,
all flat.
Was where I was. Yeah. So Camp Bastion was the main camp for like the UK, the Western Forces, and I mean, it was crazy, man. Like some of them, the Americans mainly, they had like dominoes and stuff on it, like in
really.
Yeah. They had dominoes, little shops you could buy your cigarettes. They had American PX, it's called, was this huge shop where you can get like all your cookies and stuff. Like we didn't go there much, admittedly.
Wow.
But like you'd be surprised how much the Americans go wild. And obviously with the Brits being there, we're like, oh yeah, we'll be here with you.
Yeah, we'll try out all of this. Yeah. And just going back to the heat though, because it's, it's a thing that actually I don't even think about and consider, but it's really, you're in blistering desert heat, or you certainly were in Dubai, and I'm sure Afghanistan, Middle East is hot. We know that. And you're in your boots, your stride, your full army get up, your backpack, your helmet if you need to wear one, or a hat or whatever. But, this is like layers and layers of army gear in the blistering heat. This just makes everything twice as hard, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Although it's two things you've got to remember with the heat in the UK that we're feeling now, for instance, it's a very different heat out there.
Yeah.
It's almost like a dry heat, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the other thing is that what they're quite good at doing is when you go out there, it's not like, right, here's your stuff, this is blah, 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 off you pop after 2 days. They do let you acclimatize for like, I think it was a week or two, it was between a week or two. You're doing your training, you go through all these different scenarios and what ifs, like if this happens and all that sort of stuff. And then, it wasn't as bad as now I look back and I think I'm struggling in the heat today. It wasn't as bad when I remember it. It was hot. Of course, you're sweating all the time, but you do just get used to it. It just becomes the norm. It's just hot now and you just get used to it. I think, lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, you'd be losing all of your weight just in sweat. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. So you're acclimatized, you're sort of settled in, you're still excited to be there. What happened? Like, where do you go from there then? Where do they actually send you in?
Yeah, so this is like the thing that was really decent about my job. So I was pretty much held in certain places where it was quite quiet, as in like you're there for a while and it's not that you can settle whilst you're out there, it's always non-stop where the role I was in. But I think as it like as it went day by day, I was able to go to different places around there as well and just see different scenarios and different areas. But I think the big one for me is that the days I started to know, like, am I getting a bit fed up now? And I know that sounds crazy, like, well, yeah, probably going to get fed up at one point. But it's not that. It's just...
Your expectation was different to what you were actually experiencing. You were getting a bit fed up.
Yeah, it was just fed up with just being there as well. I think it just got to a point really where I think it was about 4 months in out there. I think it was just, luckily, I'd just done the 6 months instead of the full 6 months. But it got to a point where it was just all you could, ironically, and it was perfect that we mentioned it earlier that I didn't go home that much because all I could think about now was just going home and just being on my own and being out the way because you are constantly with people all the time. And it was Ramadan, I think, at the time that it was out there at one point. So a lot of things were going on out there and it just started getting a bit dicey out there as well. And then the heat, summer heat, of course. And yeah, just everything you can imagine of like, you just want to get home was there. And it was even the little things like, oh, I can't drink, I can't, drink alcohol. It was some, like, the food wasn't too bad out there, but you're completely taken out your comfort zone. But at first, like, I felt like I was in the comfort zone because it was like, it was weird. It was like you're away from it, or you're away from life, which everybody knows is great sometimes. But believe it or not, you start actually missing life, which is crazy to think. But it was to a point then where it was, I was slowly I was really fit. I was absolutely shredded out there because that's all I was doing is, well, you're naturally doing fitness anyway, if you think of it. But at the same time, I was doing fitness as well. And it started getting towards the end. I remember it was coming up to my 21st birthday. And I can't remember the exact dates, but I remember, well, my birthday's the 7th. So, I joined the army on the 7th and it was coming up to that date where we were like getting home. And the main base now, we're at the main base where basically that's where like even the main runway is where that big plane took us at the beginning. So you're almost like walking back to the airport. If you imagine the holiday analogy again, you're getting back to the airport, you're starting to hand your stuff back in. You really are planning to go home. It's surreal, it's ready. And then Bastion, the actual camp, got attacked for the first time in a long time. They were wearing American clothes. So it was a bit of a breaker when you're thinking, I'm going home. And then that happens, and then you're stuck back into it again with a lot of stuff going on, and you're thinking, I just want to go home. And it was these rumors all the time, like, oh, have you heard it's not going to be for like another 2-3 weeks, or it's going to be another 2, and then you like hear, oh, it's going to be 3 days, and that's all you want to know is when you're going home. So
yeah, I mean, you were like in that place where it was all happening and things were bubbling. And to put this into perspective, because someone like me was watching it on the news every day with what was going on in Afghanistan. And this was a time where we were looking for Osama bin Laden. Was that the time? Has he gone missing at this point?
From my memory on the bank that I've got, it was the time that Prince Harry went out.
It was the time that Prince Harry went out. So I think it might have been just before he went missing. And they said, I don't know, there was at some point, there was the height of it. The US said they want to take out bin Laden and he went missing. And that's before that, it was all kind of going crazy. So we were kind of watching this on the news and you were kind of living that in real time where you just didn't know what was happening from one day to the next at that point.
Yeah, it was just because you like, when it happened, everyone was a bit like, oh, you just, especially at Bastion, because nothing really happens at Bastion. You sort of like it. That's like the safe area. So you're just like, yeah. So you just sort of like, oh, okay, cool, we're here, blah blah blah. And then when that happened, I think everyone was just a bit taken back by like, oh. To be fair, I think a lot of the guys were like, oh, for fuck's sake, I want to go fucking home, and you're stuck. So, but I was quite lucky because at that point I was handing my kit back and stuff. So really, I was just staying out the way a little bit on that. To be fair, I mean, I did do things out there at that point, but it was, for me at that point, it was like I said, we were just waiting to go home. All the people that were taking over us were sort of doing their first acclimatization and stuff, so they were out there. So it was, for me, it was like, okay, we're just waiting to go home now. And of course we were helping with that, all of that going on, but I was lucky to be not out of the way. I guess it's more saying that I was more concentrating on going home. Maybe that's where my mindset was. It's like, I just want to go home.
Yeah. And so did you eventually go home?
Yeah, I don't think it was that much of a bad delay either. I think it was like a week and a half, which, to be fair, I say now that's not a bad delay, but then it was like, I just want to go home, because you are waiting. And you don't really tell your family anyway what dates you're getting back. It's not really until you're on the plane back to Cyprus, where you go for a day or two. It's like decompress, that you can sort of tell your families on these phones that you get like 30 minutes a month for. So, or if I remember, whatever it was. So yeah, it was really surreal. Just bad timing. And I just wanted to get home at that point. And my mate Tom as well, he was the same. He just wanted to get home, and it was just, yeah, not a great time.
And then did you then go back out to Afghanistan a little bit later?
No, so I didn't go back to Afghan after that. I started looking into the roles then of going into more of a training and leadership, just training others and leading and instructing others. So that was like really cool as well. So I traveled the world after that. I got to go to different places like Canada, pretty much all over Europe, maybe a few countries I didn't touch down on. Yeah, it was just traveling around the world then and enjoying life.
So after that, there was a lot of travel. There was this initial stage of training. You went out to Afghan for, how long were you there for?
Just under shy of 6 months.
6 months. Wow.
It's half a year, basically. Yeah, so pretty much a year, half a year out of your life. Yeah.
You were out of the way. You weren't on the front line at any point with like bullets flying out over your head or anything, were you?
So there was times, yes, without going into much detail. So yeah, and then helping with CASEVAC sort of stuff as well, casualties and things out in certain different areas. Those bits that I was going out in different areas, that they were the not so nice times. But again, to be fair, like I said, the training makes you resilient, and you know, I'd never really had a big heart at that time, to be fair, to care too much about certain things. So
yeah, and also it's the reality of it, and we're really resilient as humans, where we just adapt and go, this is the reality and I need to deal with it. And it's not really until later on where maybe you're sitting quietly and you reflect on that and go, wow, that was like completely surreal. Did I actually do that?
Yeah. I guess my role as well, you pretty much every day, you know what's going bad, and you see it. Like, that's the thing with the role, is that every single thing that was going bad, you're like usually one of the first to know, usually one of the first to be involved with the situation. So like, I look back now, or even just after, you know, and like I started going into the training and instructing, or just different jobs and traveling to other parts of the world, you kept on looking back going, I had opportunities to go back out, and I sort of pushed myself away from them because I met my girl then, and my wife then, and that's when I was almost pushing myself away from it. But then I was having these little tingling things like, oh, I really want to go back and do some stuff again. So it's this really weird feeling of like both sides of it.
So was your girlfriend in the army as well?
No. She was met her in England, just moved to England herself. She's from Latvia. So at the time, yeah, she's my girlfriend for only 3 months. Asked her to marry me, but that was only 6 months after Afghan, I think, thereabouts.
Oh, okay. So 6 months after you met her in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
She's Latvian, so probably living somewhere around where you're stationed, right?
Yeah, well, actually, no, funny enough. I was stationed East Anglia, so near Ipswich, and she was living in South Hampshire, and I was on training. You know, you're always doing training, some sort of thing, you know, leveling up or whatever it may be. And I met her there. Smacked me in the face first minute she met me. Fell in love with her there and then.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, love that. I love that. And of course, that changes things. It does change your priorities. It changes the way you look at life. And you're still together now. And I want to get to that, because obviously you're still together now and you've got children, and it's kind of impacted what you're doing now as a job. Hello, it's only me. I hope you're enjoying Craig's story as much as I enjoyed speaking to him. What's coming up are accounts of Craig dealing with depression, anger, and there are themes around suicide as well. So just to pre-warn you, if you need any advice, help, or support, there are lots of links in the show notes, so please go there and utilise them. There are also links to Craig's website where you can get his support as a coach, and there is a link to his book, which I highly recommend. Go and read it. It's an incredible read. He goes into a lot more detail about some of the stuff that he's been through, things that we discuss in this episode. But now let's dive straight back in. In the whole scheme of your sort of army career, can you think about some of the toughest points of that 15-year career that you had to deal with? I'm sort of putting you on the spot here, and I'm sorry. You know, life is not all peaches and roses. There are highs and lows to life, but what you were experiencing in your life in the army, there's going to be highs and lows to that someone like me who's experiencing highs and lows in normal everyday life is kind of different, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, you'd be surprised though. Maybe it will surprise the answer. It's not what you think. It's not the Afghan tour. There were low points. It was actually when I fell ill, because got to remember, I was drinking what I wanted when I wanted. I was running. I was doing everything. My body was, in my eyes, indestructible. And the day I fell ill, Feb 12th, 2020, or 2021, should I say. And I remember passing out, dropping out. That was it. That was the low point, because it was just like, what the heck, man? Like, after everything I'd been through, after everything I did, I was so angry at everybody. I was so angry at the world. I was angry at society. I was angry at the army. I was angry at the people that I loved. I was angry at everything, because it was just like everything I worked for. The future prospect as well of, like I said, there was bits of me that wanted to go out and do some more things. And this is the time that sort of like, it was a bit iffy with Russia and Ukraine, and it was a bit iffy in certain areas. And I was like, oh, I can go and do some more things, you know? And it was just like, nope, stop, drop. I was like, oh.
So your body just stopped and shut down.
Yeah.
From a health point of view, what was the diagnosis? What happened?
I had AV block and SND, which is sinus node dysfunction, which basically my heart, what's it called, the atrioventricular. Luckily, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, because I would never be able to. But basically, they were paused. My heart was pausing for 6 seconds, or it was missing too many beats, and my symptoms of that was passing out. And it was really weird. It was really weird, because it was just like it was literally like Afghan had these moments, places I went around and seeing injuries and horrible things, bad news that you ever like heard as well from friends and whatever it was. That one for me personally, and it maybe sounds a bit selfish, I guess, in retrospect, but it was just because it was literally just like my life was going that way, and it just went, nope, stop. And it was like, shit, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it's not selfish. I think for most of our lives and most of us humans, we like to feel some sense of control over our lives. And even when you're in like a war zone that's quite uncontrollable, and you're probably seeing a lot of stuff going on and trying to help, but you still do what's within your control in that situation. But when something like that happens with health, it is so out of our control. So I totally understand that the wheels come off and there's nothing you can do about it. So it's probably the lowest point, because you go, there's literally nothing I can do about this. If this is a condition that you're living with, you can't continue to do this, this, and this. And so you've got no control over that, which is, it's really tough, really tough.
It really was. It was the darkest but best moment in my life. And that's why I chose it as my low, because sometimes, like when you jump on a trampoline, you have to wait for it to get to the lowest point before it bounces you back up. And it was the same with that. It was the low. And I think it's the perfect one to choose. Because I think if I was to choose certain other parts of my army career, which may be obvious to anybody, the viewer, to yourself, it would be like such a cop out, because it'd be like, that was really low because it sucked. But this one just comes with a better story, you know? It means a lot to me, because it changed everything up to this day. So, yeah.
Yeah. So let's go there then. What did it change? It was obviously a very low point. Your army career was the beginning of the end for your army career, I'm guessing. But then you said it was the best thing that happened to you in the end. So why? How?
So it's a long story, so I'll shorten it. passed out, kept on passing out. And well, I think you're from the UK, so you'll understand this anyway. With COVID and what was going on, I was imprisoned in my house. I couldn't go out. The army at the time, I think, was so shocked by COVID itself.
And so sorry. Let me just understand for a second, because we were in this COVID time and this is very strange. You had this health condition in 2020 where you passed out. You needed medical attention. So did you go home to South Wales?
Now, so still on the army housing that's next to the base.
So when you say you went home, you were still stationed in the army housing. You wasn't around your family, your immediate family at all, because that makes a difference, right? And then you were locked down there as well. We were in lockdown.
Yeah, so I was with my wife and kids, if that makes sense. Yeah, so they live with you next to the base on a housing estate that's attached to the army, if that makes sense, right?
That's for the army. Okay, you see, this is my ignorance.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No, but it's the same with me though, because I was just thinking when I say home, you would have understood, but that's fine. It was my home. Do you know what I mean? I lived there anywhere where my wife and kids were home, basically. And mate, it was fucking hard, man, because it was just like, I wasn't the fittest guy in the world by any means. I'm not going to sit here and say I was some sort of like Hercules that run around. You know, I was drinking a lot and my health definitely took a dip as I got older, and I started doing more instructing because I was more busy, like your 9 till 5 job at that point. It started to turn into that, hence why I probably I got more stress and actually lost a lot of care and actually just didn't give a shit as much. But yeah, that day, and then with the NHS on its arse and the country starting to turn into an absolute cesspit of just despise, I started to get angry. I started to play the blame game. External stresses started to be like, I will never turn back and say that the medical care that I had was top notch. I will never change my mindset, because that's not mindset. That is fact. They were quite bad.
And we need to be we need to be real about that and call a spade, because let's face it, country and the NHS was in turmoil. And I know so many stories. People were not getting the care that they needed, including me. I had an injury. I had a major operation during that time. It was diabolically bad. It was terrible.
It just sets you back, doesn't it? And I know I can empathise with you. And yeah, it was a lot of back and forth to so many hospitals. It was just people not knowing what it was, even though a doctor had already written a letter to everybody to say, this is what it is, we found it. His letter was ignored. There's a lot of administration errors. I'm losing my shit. I'm staying strong in front of everyone else and saying I'm fine. I even pushed myself to go back to work just because I was saying I'm fine when I wasn't, which, that's part of my parcel of what I do now, helping people, because I just tried everything to get back to work, and it just got worse. I thought, oh, this is it. I'm going back to work. That this is me. I'm all right. Here we go. Start again. And I just got promoted.
And again, I'm going to go back to that control thing. Going back to work is the part of your life that you can control. I know that I can deliver at work. I want to go back to work. So I'm, even though you're not well enough, yeah, I'm fine. I'm going to go back to work, because that's the part that you can control. And really, you were telling me you're angry at the world, and that is like multiplying, because then you're angry at the doctors because they're messing up. They're losing the letters. You're not getting the care that you need. You're just angry at the care system, at the country, at the world. Lots of anger is building up inside of you, right?
Well, yeah, typical bloke, innit? Like you've got either aggression or humour, and that was the emotion I chose at the time, because it was for me. I was just angry at everything as well, and like I was sneaking out and doing stuff that not away from my wife. I was in the army. I was going to do things that they told me I couldn't do, and then I was getting like told off doing it, and then I felt weaker and weaker and weaker. Until it got to the point that I had to go to recovery centres for myself to preempt, maybe am I leaving? Then I got to the fateful day where I walked into an office. I sat there for an hour talking about my condition. At that point, you start to feel like, I won't say her name just in case she doesn't want it, but it was this woman that was helping support me. In fact, Ina, I can say her first name. I'm sure there's plenty of Inas out there. And she was so nice. She was so fucking down the line as well. Loved it. She was old fashioned. Loved it. She was like, this is what you fucking need to do, mate. And you're like, yes, love it.
Love that. Love those people.
And she was really good. And unfortunately after that, then if I had to be quite honest, a lot of the support systems I had would just, I think I remember at one point I went in for anger issues and stuff like that, because obviously I was just stressed a bit. I obviously found out later I had bipolar disorder, but at the time didn't know. And it was these like, I went into a mental health sort of thing to go and find out what was thing. And I felt like everything was aimed at my family. I remember my wife distinctly turned around going, why is she fucking asking about me all the time and your kids? I understand that they need a safeguard, but they haven't asked you once, like, how are you feeling? So I lost a lot of faith in the mental health system. I lost a lot of faith in anything, therapy, coaching, you name it, it was gone. And I just went quiet for leaving the army. I was really good at acting, mate. Like, honestly, I think I should get some sort of like Oscar for my acting. Yeah. Because everyone thought I was happy. My wife thought I was happy. And rightly so, because I was smiling, I was making jokes, I was dark humor, really edgy humor. My best mate, Tom, wouldn't, like, he's been with me for 15 years as a mate, and I don't think he saw through it. Bang, snap, mate. That was just one day. I'm talking pills on the floor, looking at my son's bed, tears in my eyes. Just everything just fell. My nan, who I loved more than anything, my granddad not long before that, my other granddad in the same week died, got made redundant from my job, not from the army. Now, that my actual first civilian job, where I actually got a job as a project manager, within a month, got made redundant from my job, tried to do something to myself.
Tried to do something to yourself.
Take my own life.
You tried to take your own life. You actually
yeah,
really wanted to end it at that point.
Yeah. And then with everything, all of this was just like bubble wrapped into this.
Unraveling. Completely, it feels like, we should just take a moment to breathe for a second and understand that, again, this is such a man thing, right? And it's a societal expectation of this is how a man should be. You hold things together, you stay strong. And we're all taught that, and we're kind of similar ages, I think, Craig. So, I think things are changing, but certainly the society that we grew up in, a man is made in a certain way. And that was even accelerated for you because you were in the army. You already said, you know what I mean? This is like, man up, man up, man up. So you were trying to hold these things together. You were painting on a smile for your family, for your friends. Deep down, things are unraveling and you are not okay. And at some point, the wheels come off. And I mean, you hit your rock bottom, but you didn't see a way out. You felt that it was best to not have you in this world. I mean, I am so glad that your attempt wasn't successful and I'm talking to you now. I am so glad, and I'm so sure that all of your friends and family are as well. But unfortunately, male suicide is still the most common killer in the UK from 18 to 25. This is young men taking their own lives. Why is this still such a thing? And yes, we are talking about it more. I still think that we can talk about it more. And I just want to commend you for being brave enough to talk about it to me now, because hopefully someone can listen to this and understand that, yes, people have been there, but also they've overcome it as well. But this was a real rock bottom for you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is tough.
Yeah, it really was. But like, after that, I think I met this guy, Michael Moe. He's in Wales, absolutely amazing, completely, when it comes to life, completely opposites, from sexual preference to everything. We were literally opposites, but man, did I get along with him. Like, as soon as I walked in, he looked at me, I think it was in the first hour, he said, like, Craig, you're going to die in a ditch. And I just looked at him like, fuck. But this was the guy that I've been looking for the help all the time. That was someone who's direct. Men need it. Men need that, like, hey, listen. And you're like,
we need the director. We don't want to skate around. Tell us how it is. And and then you can do something with that, can't you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the practices that are out there, are there for good reason and they work for some people. But when you are seeking a specific type of help, or you're a specific type of person, and you get the wrong help again and again and again, it can really dishearten you.
It can. And I would have been there if it wasn't for my wife, who called an emergency number and said, like, fuck this. I think my body and my mind was quite strong, and I think it won. So I threw it all up. I think it was like, it'd be, imagine, if you will, and I know it's I shouldn't smile, but if you was to jump off a building, then halfway down go, oh shit, and then somehow try to cling on, or like somehow grow wings so you could fly away from it. And it was sort of like that. And then it was looking at my son's bed, and I was walking around the house. I was hungover because I just drank myself into stupid night before. So it was all linked in. I then come up with this elaborate lie, because I wanted the help, clearly, hence my actions. But I also didn't want to admit how weak at the same time. So I just said that I was drunk and I went to the edge of a balcony and I was like nearly jumping over. That's how the story started with my wife until it started to unravel. And when I think the first time she met Michael Moe, because he brought us in, like I had been seeing him for a little bit, but we weren't seeing each other quite a lot then. He brought me in with my wife. He just told, I hadn't cried in years really. And after he told me to get everything off my chest, and it sort of poured out in a lot of ways, my wife just went quiet. And it was weird for me. I felt ashamed driving back because she just went quiet. And I thought, because men and women are different. And I thought like, oh, she's like just gone fucking hell. And yeah, she was just shocked. She was just so taken back. Like all the years that we may have argued or got into sort of a disagreement, or I may have snapped quite quickly or got angry or was out drinking and doing stupid things, sort of started to make sense. And then very quickly after that, after doing months and months of sort of tests and theory work around what was wrong with me, we got to the point of bipolar disorder on top of everything, and then PTSD that was mixed in with also my health issues, that it was just a trauma to my whole body, just losing out on everything. And then eventually that's where I was able to start, on the half pipe, start to come back up on the way up, because it was
starting to rebuild, because you were finally accepting the fact that you needed help. And again, that you almost said it then, and I almost sort of like heard you say the word and you didn't quite say it, but you said that I think you almost said that you felt ashamed, like of feeling so weak. And again, it's so common for men to be like, oh, men shouldn't be weak. And if you feel weak, we're not always at our strongest, and we do feel weak. But it got so bad for you because I just think there were a lot of things. I mean, if we put it into perspective, you were coming out of the army, which you didn't foresee because of a health reason that was out of your control. You weren't necessarily getting the correct help that you needed to do that. And that was probably paired with the fact that the transition out of the army, I mean, could you see a future as a civilian? Like, how was that transition even looking in your head? It was forced upon you, but could you see that transition? Like, that must have been difficult as well.
Do you know what? Weirdly, I did see a future in civilian life. That's what's weird about it. I did see, like, because I did do a lot of qualifications, and I sort of had an idea that I was going to go into project at the time, project management, although I was very interested in training, coachy side. It was always there. So I think it wasn't that. I think it was like it was like jumping into the ice cold water. It was like, oh, hold on, this is Civvy Street. It fucking sucks. Oh, you poor lot. Like, it was just like everything changed, like my humor got to be drawn back. I lost my identity in that way.
Well, I mean, at one point you were probably talking to this brotherhood that we're talking about, the role models that you're talking about specific things to do with the army, which is your reality, which is pretty extreme. There are war-torn zones happening that you're aiding with, and then all of a sudden you're going back to civilian life where someone's moaning about their boss being a dickhead that day. Like, you can't, like, you're probably going, oh, shut up.
Yeah, it was a lot of that, to be honest. But I was wrong. And that's the big thing I think is worth noting, that me coming out and saying like, oh, shut up and get over it. I was wrong. I wasn't right. I was definitely wrong. I understand that the empathy there may be like, oh, but you was in a different culture almost being where you were. But, I had to learn to, a part of me really coming out is I have to learn to adapt to other people. I'm joining you in a way and not you. I'm a big believer, like, the majority were civilians and they didn't understand what I was talking about. So if I said, no, everyone, you must understand what I'm saying. You must understand what I did on a daily basis. Then I'd be quite snobby in the fact that I'd come out like that. So I was wrong in the case that I'd come out. But I think what was the big one for me, and the thing that stuck with me, was that obviously I didn't know I had this bipolar disorder. So like now when I look back, like I talked about you with the highs and lows and these crazy moments and me drinking and all that stuff, it was just a big facade basically for me, because I was either fucking mental off my nut or I was just quiet, but only within myself. I used to take it out on myself. Just got to a point where I was just like, do you know what? I can't be like this anymore, man. Like, I've got a...
So did that diagnosis open your eyes to some of your previous behaviours in the years where it sort of put things into perspective, like, hey, that's why I'm like that. That's why I do that.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, 100%. Yeah, like some of the things, like my missus go out on Friday morning, she comes back on Friday afternoon, we're going on holiday. She's like, what? Yeah, we're going on holiday. I was crazy like that. It was like, bam, we're doing something. Bam, I spent £2,000. Sorry. It was mental. And then, yeah, but it wasn't for me. What I enjoyed and what I did, I think personally that I did well with it, to give myself the first compliment of the day, I guess, is I didn't label it. I didn't walk around now go, oh, Ness, hold on. I'm going to be really pissed off this today and I'm going to be really aggressive towards you. You should just get over it. It was like, right, that bipolar, I'm just going to shoot all over. I'm going to get rid of, and not get rid of as in like, oh, I'm going to cure it, but I'm going to...
No, but control it. Yeah, no, it's that thing. If you're aware, then you can do what's within your power to be a better person. Like you had that in you that's like, okay, I'm not going to allow this label, this kind of like bipolar label to, I guess,
define me.
Define who I am. No, I'm gonna define me, and in spite of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Which is a very powerful way of thinking, and it takes an open mind, a lot of bravery, a lot of courage that you clearly have. So there was, as you mentioned, which I love that analogy, coming back up the other end of the half pipe after that. You'd already done, just to put into perspective, because I want to talk about your work right now, but you'd already done a lot of training in coaching. You'd done some project management. You were emotionally aware and empathetic enough to know that your transition back into civilian life would have to involve you understanding that first world problems are a thing that impacts people's mental health. You were open-minded, like I said, and empathetic enough to understand that. So you then started to come out of this black hole that you were in mentally. You had a diagnosis. Your relationship with your wife, I'm guessing, was getting much stronger because you understood each other a lot better.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love her so much. Like, to be honest, I wasn't able to tell her that for 10 years, 9 years, maybe, of our marriage. At the very beginning, I was Frank Sinatra. And then I just went into this drunk. I could tell you when I was drunk, and I can, be all randy when I get home. But she what's good about my wife as well, what's amazing about it is that she's admitted her downfalls. I think that's a very strong thing in today's society. Like she said, and she still sticks with, like, she had downfalls. She didn't think of what it is like to be from a man's perspective. I think that's really empowering of her as well, because I think, like, we talk about relationships and stuff sometimes, and it's like, oh, well, the man was really bad and he wasn't facing up to it. Da, 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 da. And then it's so easy to go, oh, man, am I right? But, like, she was so open to the fact that she was like, oh, fuck, man, I did fuck up, like, quite a bit sometimes. And she said she could have dealt with a lot of more situations better. And that to me even made me love her more, because I was like, do you know what? That takes such for me, a real woman to, like, go take a look at herself in the mirror and go, do you know what? As much as she's always been better than me in like a loving way, but she just took that upon her and she went, do you know what? And we discussed it and she went, I've screwed up in these situations. I've been wrong. And she's always turned to me for things, like with the kids, and she's always wanted my advice, and she shows me respect, and it's wonderful.
Well, it sounds like when that happens in a relationship, the other person is really wanting to work it out. They're motivated by wanting to work it out and work through it. What happens is you put a mirror up to yourself and you say, how can I be a better human being? How can I be a better partner to support this person? Because they see it from your point of view. And when you're doing that, which you're talking to me about it now, you're doing that for her and she's doing that for you, then really the sky's the limit. You can get over anything, and relationships go through hell. All relationships go through hell, ups and downs and everything. But when you've gone through what you guys have gone through and managed to see it from the other person's perspective and turn up in a different way for each other, you're both doing that for each other. Like, wow. I mean, it gives me hope.
Oh, 100%. Do you know what? There is the problem with men out there. I think the problem with everybody, in fact, I think it's like this, especially in modern society, because we're in a more of and this is not to shun it, this is just to say it's like a symptom of, but because of more individualistic sort of ideals out there, we're looking for ourselves in our partners a lot of the times. And this is what I see a lot of the time with clients, a lot of times I see with speaking to Tom and stuff like that from a relationship coaching standpoint, and therapists as well. And where I actually fell in love with my wife is because she was the opposite of me. And I didn't look for somebody that was as courageous as me and as outgoing as me and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And it works out so well. I know it's such an old saying, I'm bringing it back, but like, opposites attract, and sometimes it really does. It does, because she's my other half and I'm her other half, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Opposites do attract. And yeah, there's more and more people out there that go, if you look at all these dating shows that are on TV and they ask them like, what are you looking for? It's like basically me in a woman or a man or whatever they say. And more people are saying that and you go, you complete narcissist. You're crazy. Like you're gonna clash with yourself. You're gonna clash with another you. Yeah, opposites attract for sure. Amazing. I'm so glad that you found that. And I'm so glad that you found that true, loving, supportive, trusting relationship, and you've got children together. So you've really created this strong family dynamic, which has really pushed you on, which is absolutely incredible to hear. And you've come out of your shell emotionally as well, I think, through all of that. And we've spoken a lot about that man sort of, being strong, being supportive, providing for the family and being a version of a man that society expects that you were trying to do. What you're doing now, if I'm right, and you can tell me I've got this on the head or not, you are helping other men, specifically dads, who feel overwhelmed with life, stressed, and maybe part of that is because of the societal expectation of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a dad in 2025. Is that true? You're helping coach them with those kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, definitely helping them like try and build with today's society in the modern side. But it's also to teach them that you can provide and you can be that leader and you can be strong and you can be supportive and you don't have to be an emotional wreck and talk about your feelings every single day and still not be stressed. This is where I went wrong, was because I completely shut off and stonewalled, where what I've very much proven with clients and which I've very much proven with myself and which I've very much proven with working with some therapists on the matter as well, is that you can be a man. And that's like where the big problem is that they're so confused at the moment in society. Like, okay, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I've got to be this, 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 this. No, mate. You're a dad and a husband. They look to you as role model. They look at you to be compassionate. They look at you to be resilient. Your wife's going to come home. She's going to be complaining. She's going to be moaning, and she needs you there, right then. And you need to be there. But so the idea is, what do men do when they have to take on their kids' problems? We want to take on our wives' problems and go like, how can I help? We want to, but also have your own problems and then go, how do I balance that? How do I keep this bag of weight on my back? Well, you just got to keep on dropping stuff out. And this is all what my routine and my dad rebuild is about, is like, do you know what, mate? You can be the guy that they go to when they're scared, or they want you to provide, or they want you to be that bravado. They want you to be strong, but you need to learn.
That's also still okay. That's really important to say as well, because we do live in a time now where there's been a bit of a shift and a change, and men are almost made to feel ashamed of being a man or being masculine or being that person that society expects, and it's this tipping point, isn't it? It's this seesaw of like, toxic masculinity, which is clearly not good and has been affecting men in a negative way for many, many years, versus you're not allowed to be a man anymore. That's not the answer. And I think the seesaw has tipped too far the other way, where actually men are now feeling guilty about being themselves, and or they feel like they've got a target on their back because they are themselves. Like, it's okay to be yourself. We need to be in a seesaw where the equilibrium's right. And I think what you just said is really important. I just want to read something very, very quickly from you. These are your words, and it's just based on that. So you said that you started speaking up. You started to let go of guilt. You challenged all of those stories that you'd believed for years, the ones that said showing any emotion made you weak, or that being a good dad meant sacrificing yourself completely. It turns out that none of that was true. With each breakthrough, you say, I found my strength, a real grounded strength, not based on how much I could carry, but how much I chose to live. I think that's lovely. I think that's two wonderful sentences.
Yeah, and it's very true, like you get to, I teach it all the time, and I even teach it in groups and stuff like that, is that you get to choose your stress. And then a lot of people go, nah, you don't, because what if I've got an annoying person? What if I see this person and the boss is a dick? And it's like, yeah, but you get to choose how you react. You get to choose if that's a trigger for you, and if you get an anger response, And if your cortisol and your blood pressure fly you to the roof, you get to choose that. No one does. And that's where I was wrong for so long, is that I let everyone stress me, everything stress me out. And when I realized, I don't give a shit what this person thinks. I don't care what that person thinks. I can live with my family our way. And, and my wife will tell you, like, if one day maybe we'll do a podcast together, because I'm sure she's got a lot to say about me. She looks at me as that man who loves her. She knows that she's safe in this house. She knows that I can deal with a lot, and she knows that she can come home and go, "Oh, I've been dealing with all this today," and I can listen, because instead of sitting there going building and building, I go, "Hold on, I need to clearly relieve some stress right now, and then I need to come back stronger." Right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, that is so powerful. That is something that I'm learning myself, that we are in control of our responses. We're in control of how this stress, this exterior stress, how it affects us internally. Like, we're in control of that. And it's so easy when you say it out loud, and we need to say it more often. But it's so difficult at times of heightened stress or heightened anxiety, or we might be low energy or underslept, or, we haven't been taking care of our health, and then outside factors. So you've definitely transitioned your life, but not only that, you've written about it. And this is a bestseller. This is an award-winning bestseller.
It was, yeah. It was quite shockingly as well.
An incredible achievement, Craig. Honestly, it's not easy. Everyone's writing books out there. So for it to really gain some momentum and win awards and do well is a big thing. And it probably means that there's a need for it, right? I mean, that's what it is. And it's a good book. So it's called How I Went from Stress and Hospital Beds to Enjoying My Life. I'll put the links so that people can get it in the show notes, but just give me a flavor of that book.
Yeah, do you know what? It's I think where it went well is because I start with the story we talked about, where the day I dropped and I become ill, hence why it was at a low point. But not only is that, am I talking about my personal experiences, it goes into a little bit of detail about how stressed I got in the army and how angry I got at the world. And then it gives you tips at the end, but also gives you a little bit of practices. So it's not just like, oh, read my story, it's all about me. It's like, here's a little bit, as you can see, this is what's going wrong with me. This is what fixed me. And it's got up to 8 chapters of all that for you, basically, to go, okay, this is clearly when he was angry and stressed. And what I loved about it, from feedback from people, is that it was great to hear someone else's perspective in such an extreme environment, to then be able to then put it into their own matrix. Because the tips are very like, you can do it your way sort of thing. And that's really, and yeah, it was actually hot sellers list first, and then went to Amazon #1. So it was like really quick. I think it was within a week. I think it was because I think it was some internal support as well, because people really wanted me to write it. Like, you need to do this.
Yeah, must have been very, very cathartic putting that down on paper and getting all of that out.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah. You've taken your experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all of the stuff that you've come through, and put it in the book. But more than that, you've tried to frame it in a practical solutions way for other people to take those lessons and say, you can kind of implement this in your own life. And that is probably because you're so motivated for coaching and helping other people, which is also what you're doing now. So you've written this book, but you're also actually offering coaching practices for dads. So talk to me about the coaching as well.
I love doing it, mate. I absolutely do. I really, really love speaking to clients. There was times where I could have probably walked away from the one-on-one and did some other stuff, but I fucking love it so much. It's the results. Basically, my whole idea is mindset, resilience, and then life building. So the whole first bit is just changing your mind on how you see stress. People see stress as like a normality, and it's really just getting you to understand like how to stop that stress cycle, how to sleep better, how to wake up better. I mean it, wake up better. Don't just wake up, go on your phone and start. Everything is involved in those mindset, and then building the resilience. As I said to you before, it's like we are dads. The ones I for my clients, and it's all about like, do you know what? People are relying on you. So you still need to be the dad. You still need to be the strong figure in your life. You still need to be there for your kids. You still need to enforce discipline. You still need to be loving and compassionate and go to work and be the provider. You've got so many roles in your life, and then the lifestyle changes, which is always my favorite bit, because, you built this sort of like step-by-step mentality. And then you get to the end, it's like, right, what can you do better? And what I love about that, Dean, and as you can probably hear in my voice, the passion I'm talking about, is at that point, it really is, where do they want to go with it? Like, you can have somebody who goes, you know what, I just want to go to the gym. And I've had men going to the gym, better than lives. I've seen men earn more money. I've seen men have more sex with their wife. I've had men, you name, have better go out on holiday. I want to go on holiday. I just want to go on one holiday. And it's because that whole bit now you've taken away the stress, or you're taking away the stress. And then it's like, look at the world now, everybody. And I love doing it. So I haven't moved away from it.
You've completely come alive. You've come, if anyone's listening to this or rather than watching it, you've become so animated. Your face, your arms are moving. The passion is like flowing through you, and I can hear it. And I'm sure so can your clients on a day-to-day basis, which is why it's working so well. I just love it. I absolutely love it. Stress is something that we are all going to be having to deal with in varying quantities, right? How we deal with it is really our choice, and how we let it affect us is our choice. And there are tools to help us do that. And you're helping people do that, which is great. You did talk about waking up better. And I recently heard someone was talking about waking up and going straight on your phone, which creates a dopamine hit. And then the rest of your morning is on a downward spiral because you're not looking for the dopamine hit. In the natural world, without technology, we as humans would wake up and we would have to look for our first dopamine hit. And it would be unconsciously a motivation. So you would go and get some water and you would feed your body with water, and you might go outside and step outside and look at the sun or whatever. And that's where the dopamine hit comes from. You would unconsciously, as a human being, look for that first rush of dopamine to the brain. As soon as you wake up in the morning and you go on the phone, it's doing that for you. So you don't get it in a natural way. You don't look for it in a natural way, which changes your makeup, and it changes the way that you wake up every day. So what you said, wake up better, is such a small thing, but it's so incredibly important to start your day right.
I'm so glad you said that. It really, really is, D. And the fact is as well, is that when you wake up, it's when your cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, people call it your stress hormone, it's at its highest. You can imagine that you've gone from a status of sleep, you've woken up, your heart rate's higher, your blood pressure's higher, your I just said it, cortisol's at its highest. And to be honest, when you get that quick dopamine hit, you think your stress has gone down, but you get that quick dopamine hit, and then you almost become lethargic because, like you said, it's like taking a quick drag of a bit of weed or a bit of quickly, I'm great, and then you get that down. It's the same, and I say to all my clients, when you get up, first thing you do is you just stand up, you limber up, go out, and like you said, literally all the things you said, I tell them all the time, go out and get some sunlight, or in the UK, some grey clouds. Make sure you drink water, splash water. I go for a run. I then go for a walk with the dogs, and then I go to the gym. So I do quite a lot in the morning, but yeah, 100% right.
Yeah, amazing. And they're small things in the scheme of things, but to change your habits if you're not doing that now, and to do that regularly, can feel quite big and intensive. But actually, just like one small thing a day can help. It's really actually changed my life, waking up better in the morning and having a really healthy habit that sets you up for a day. And you feel like you can just deal with the day a lot better, those stress levels that you're talking about. Yeah, I love where you're coming from, mate. I love the book. I love all of the coaching that you're doing. And I love who it's targeted for, because I think it's needed. Men need other people out there, other men. Women can do this as well, but men need probably other men who have been through stuff that you've been through to really understand what it means to be a man in the world, what it means to be a dad, you are a dad, and what it means to cope with everyday stresses and how we can just get through it and manage it. It's so important, mate, and I'm loving what you're doing.
Yeah, same to you, Dean, as well. Like speaking to guys like us out here as well, and we are trying our best to help people out there, and that's what the main goal is, isn't it? To help others. So yeah, appreciate the kind words as well.
That's right, and I think this episode will help others. Just a couple of things to wrap this up, Craig. If you look at where you are now, who you are in the world, as a man, as a dad, as a husband, as a person, all of the stuff that you're doing, and you look back to that lowest point that you mentioned that you hit, how has one informed the other? How do you reflect back at that? Is that part of you? Is it a different person? How do you look back at that?
Yeah, I use it to sort of motivate the future by using, not like, I believe in the car analogy that the windscreen's bigger than the wind mirror because you look forward more than back.
Hey, I haven't had that one before. That's a little gem. Say that again.
There you go. So the car, the analogy, so the windscreen's bigger than the wind mirror because you should be looking forward, not backwards. Um, but you need to check for the dangers sometimes, and that is looking up at that wind mirror and looking back. And then sometimes I think about that time, like how low I was, how dark it was, all my worries, all my anxieties, all my stresses, and think like if I am feeling a bit down, it just helps me look back. And I use the then mix with that the university analogy, like, okay, you've got something like you've got a meeting coming up at work. If you're working 9 till 5, you're really panicked about it. Just zoom out. You're living in Wales. Zoom out. You live in the United Kingdom. Zoom out. You're living in the world. Zoom out. You live in the universe. Your problem is that big. It's so small on the skeptic of life and what other people are going through. You can really train yourself. And I'll quote what someone said to me yesterday was, "You annoy me because you're so fucking calm all the time." That was it. Like anything that goes off, I'm just like, it's all right. Don't worry about it, man.
And you went, yeah, I can take that. Like that's something that you can feel proud of. Like, wow, look how calm I remain under all of this pressure of life. I love that. I love that analogy with the car, and I've not heard that before. And I think it does sum up Used to Be's Do Count quite well, because this is all about looking forward and change and transformation and the way we evolve as humans and the way we overcome our challenges. But those rear view mirrors are still there because we do have to look back at what's going on behind us sometimes and look back at the danger. And you can look back at that time now, having been through it and come through it and come out the other side with a reflection of how far you've come. And I think that's the wonderful thing about it. I mean, it's like, but if anyone out there is feeling low or feeling like they might be close to their rock bottom, it's like, that's not the end. It could just be the making of you, right? The falling down doesn't matter, but the getting back up does. And look at what you've done to get back up.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I know there's a lot of men, and that's why I do what I do, because I'd rather prevent the mental health than, not saying that I think we should not help people with men with mental health, but preventing it, I think, is so much more effective. It's like, let's not get them to that point where you don't know where it can go or how they're going to react, where if you can prevent it, I think that's just more effective.
I'm getting there for sure. Absolutely. Craig, thank you so much for joining me and giving all of your time and energy today. It's been such an amazing chat that I've had with you. Is there anything else that you haven't said that you want to leave us with? You don't have to, but putting you on the spot here, anything that you want to leave our listeners with? Any stone that's left unturned?
Yeah, of course. Please don't give up on love. It's so important.
I need to do that.
You do, yeah, and you do. Like, I'm telling you now, do not give up on love, however your love may look. It's so important for us humans to group, to communalize, to love one another. Because if you think that life is, I'm going to have a family, I'm going to have a husband or a partner or whatever it may be, and you think it's going to cause more stress, trust me when I say this, stress is always worse when you haven't got someone to talk about it. And it's so important. So please, men out there in the world, don't give up on love. Don't give up on yourself. Be strong. Be that role model, because at the end of the day, you are needed. Let me remind you that you are needed in this world. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So just well, and to keep strong, of course.
Amen to that. Thank you so much, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dean. Really enjoyed having a chat. So it's been lovely.
It feels good to be back speaking to wonderful, inspiring guests like Craig Maddern. Craig, thank you so much for your time, for your honesty, and for telling the world your story. I think it's really important for males in particular to speak about mental health, to speak about their feelings, to speak about their struggles, and most importantly, to speak the truth about suicide and suicidal thoughts and or attempts. This is a serious killer of young men between 18 and 25. It still is the highest death rate of young men is suicide. And so talking about those things so openly are truly inspiring and powerful, and I really hope it helps anyone out there. What I took from hearing Craig's story is that when he hit his rock bottom, he was in that black hole and he didn't want to be here anymore. It wasn't the end. In fact, it was just the beginning. It was the beginning of him rebuilding himself into a stronger person. So if anyone out there needs to hear that, just remember, this is not the end. This too shall pass. As I said before, there are lots of links in the show notes giving you access to help, support and information. If you or anyone that you know needs that, please pass it on. Craig is so well equipped with all of his experience and all of the things that he's been studying and educating himself on, and pairing that with his own experiences to help other people. And as a dad who has struggled with stress and anger, Craig is in the best place to help other dads deal with that. And he's doing that through his one-to-one and group coaching. And I advise anyone out there who is struggling to get in touch with Craig and get him on board. I mean, you won't be disappointed and you will not regret it. What have you got to lose? He is an incredible coach, helping a lot of people, and I hope he can help you or someone that you know very soon. His book is also available to read, and I will say it's a fantastic book that just frames all of his experience in a way that you can digest and actually put into practice some of the things that he's discovered along the way that's helped him. Guys, if you are enjoying my podcast, I would really appreciate your love and support in sharing and spreading the message. Share an episode, share the website, share the Spotify page or wherever you're listening. And I would really, really love you to leave me a review as well of this episode. If you've loved it, leave a review, leave some comments and engage with me on my socials. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to build my community and keep this community going, inspiring people through telling stories of change, transformation, personal development and human evolution. Until next time, stay safe, stay fabulous, and I'll see you very soon on another episode.